What's up, everybody? Jeremy Weiss here with Weiss Tech Hockey, and we're really excited. We've actually got a special guest today. It's Max Sinnis. Welcome, Max. Glad you could make it. And
thank you very much for having me.
Yep. And Max lives in Nova Scotia, up in Canada, and he's been coaching in and around 20-ish years. He uses the Weiss Tech material from time to time as well along the way. And he reached out. He had some kind of a pretty cool experience with one of his teams that he's been working with the past 3 or 4 seasons. And I was like, you know what? This could probably benefit many of the other coaches that follow along. And so I thought it might be cool to have Max on and just let him kind of tell his own story. So Max, why don't you give us a little bit of background on kind of your hockey background, coaching background, hockey upbringing, and then I'll just ask some questions along the way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for myself, I started playing hockey. I was a late bloomer, probably around 9 years old. And my dad threw me on the ice, and I fell about 10 times before I reached the blue line. And Dad's like, "How'd you like that?" It's like, "I loved it." So I had the bug and came up through the system. My dad coached me, and we won some provincials, won a SEDMHA and whatnot. So I had a very good coaching background from my father. After that was done, my son, he started playing hockey when he was 5, and I decided I was going to start coaching then with him, like my father did with me. So I coached him through his career, and then we had pretty good success with them as well. And then once he was done, I wasn't done coaching yet. So
can I pause you there for real quick? What year was that? What year did you start coaching? You said his name was Tim, your son?
My son's name's Justin.
Oh, Justin. I thought you said Tim. Sorry.
Yeah.
What year was that you started?
That was 2004.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So then I started coaching with him right up through midget or U18 as they call it now. And when he was done, I went back and started coaching with the U15s or the Bantams with a bunch of kids that I never had. So I came back through with them right through to the U18. And then once I was done with those, I went back with another group, had them for a couple of years in U15. And then once I took them to the U18, my dad decided he was going to retire from coaching after 28 years. So I took this last team that he worked with and what he built with them. We went, and this is 2019, the year that COVID hit. It was a lot like this season. We had 10 players that were, they were just in their final year of hockey. We went and we won a bunch of different championships. We had a very successful season. That year I won Coach of the Year with Hockey Nova Scotia. And then COVID hit and we couldn't finish our last couple of tournaments because we were leaving on Friday morning to go to the tournament. And Thursday at 11 o'clock at night, it was like, season's over, have a nice day. So after that happened, I came back through with this new group of kids that came up. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. I'd never coached them before. Like coming up through the system, it's always like, you knew everybody. It's a small town. We only have 800 hockey players who pick county minor hockey. So that's covering all the way from novice or, Timbits right up to U18 at all levels, whether it be AAA, AA, AAC, whatever. So small community where everybody knows everybody. So I was able to kind of get away from some bad habits. You develop friendships with parents and players. They know you. Some of them hung out with my kid growing up, so they're at my house. So it's a different atmosphere when they're at your house all the time than you go to the rink. So these players had no idea what I was about. So with the coaching staff, we decided we were going to go into, I wanted to try this 3-year plan. And I had a few kids left in the team, a few 3rd-year guys and 2nd-year guys that I've coached through. Some of them left hockey for a bit and came back. Some of them played at a higher level and came back to play with their friends. So we had 2 or 3 really strong players on the team. And I had a couple players that were, mediocre, and a few players that, like, it's their first time coming to U18. And there was some skill there. So I said, I'm going to try and sat down with my other coaching staff. And I said, look, we're going to have these players, like there were 7 of them at the time. And I said, we're going to have these guys for probably 3 seasons. I'd like to try and implement whole entire workflow. It's going to help everybody, but I want to focus on these 7 and see how that's going to play out.
So can I pause you for just 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So your son ended at U18. You stopped coaching at that point, stopped coaching him at that point.
Yes.
What made you want to keep coaching even though your own kid was finished with his youth hockey experience?
Well, for me, like I just really, hockey's ingrained in me. It's a lifestyle and I really enjoyed it. Now where I coached up through, I did a lot of A and B levels, in our area, which would be like our traveling teams. I didn't go into the AA or AAA. I just stayed down with that level. But I wanted to, I had this kind of persona, like Max is a good coach. Max works you hard. He teaches you a lot of stuff. So I wanted to go back into the rec league or the C leagues and try and see if I was to implement some of the stuff I'm offering at the higher levels, how are they going to be able to take this? How hard are they going to work for it? Can you kind of instill this type of work ethic where I find a lot of, like, I've seen some C teams, they just, it's rec league. It's like pond hockey. They have one good guy that passes the puck, he goes through the whole team and tries to score, and there's no team systems. It's just, I wanted to try and build something and see if you took a rec team and you put the same type of systems in, like whether it be like a 2-1-2 or a 1-4 or 1-2-2 foosball, what have you. How are they going to adapt to that? How are they going to be able to, perform a breakout? Like there's some players that I work with that, you tell them to go stand in the half wall. They didn't know what you're talking about. So you have to tell them you're basically teaching them from the ground up for a lot of those skills. Biggest thing I found, like hockey IQ is something that a lot of them need to be taught. And from introducing a lot of I use a lot of your videos. Like we only get 1 50-minute ice time a week, and that's all we have for practice. So you can only do so much in 50 minutes, and you only get about 20, 25 practices a season unless you're renting ice extra. So I use a lot of your videos and a lot of your verbiage, and like I followed you in your story, and I found like we're cut from the same cloth when it comes to being competitive and teaching those different skills. And I know we've talked about it before a few times. So using those videos, it's just made it so easy to go, okay, well, here's a breakout. Here's how you do the breakout. This is where all the positions go. Or if we're doing block box +1 or transitions or whatever, it's like, watch this 5-minute video. Watch as many times as you want to. This is where the link is. And I give it to them like homework. Like, go watch this, learn it, understand it. It's going to make practice a lot more simpler for me, and it'll be a lot more beneficial for you as well as a player.
So I was actually going to ask you, but you just hit the nail on the head. I was going to say, so how did you teach the hockey sense that you've been talking about? And so you incorporated video, some of the stuff from the website, and sent it home as homework. So that you feel like that maximized your time on the ice when it did come time to hit the ice?
I did at times. Sometimes, did you watch the video and you had 4 or 5? And, oh yeah, I did. Tell me about it. Oh, I didn't really watch it. But
you got to keep accountable up.
That's it. So for the most part, I mean, they did understand it. And yeah, no, I found it just a great help. And I really like watching the videos that you had where you actually took different plays and you kind of dissected. Like there's one you did with the Lightning, the 1-3-1 dissection. It's about 15-minute video. We use that play so many times last year. Like we get up 4 or 5 goals, and then we just say, okay, we're going 1-3-1, and the other team just get to the red line and dump it. We do a breakout and come right back down in. So it worked quite well. So
awesome. Very cool. Okay. So I love it. I love the background. Now you started getting into, before I interrupted, so I apologize for that. You started getting into your current team, which is, when did it start? 3 seasons ago? So you're coming into your 4th season?
Yeah,
What's our timeline looking?
Yeah. So we'll say this would have been, so this season that just passed would have been their 3rd season. So 2 seasons ago.
Okay.
So with that, they were coming up from U15. I had some players that played defense their whole life, and I had to move them into a winger position because I found they were more beneficial up on the wing, where when it comes to size and strength, when you're U15 coming up and you're like 4'10" or 5'1" and you weigh 110 pounds, well, you got a guy coming down and you're 6'2", 18 years old. Yep. A lot of power there. You can't really control them. So I moved a couple of players around that played forward back in the team, kind of changed them into defensemen. And they ended up finishing their career as defensemen. They won top defensive of the year for my team one season. And so it was a good transition. So so basically we had this plan set out. We're going to be working on these different team systems, these type of goals. And what I did is, like, I usually go to the first practice for the tryouts and I watch what's up at A or AA, and I kind of gauge, okay, well, that's what A is. What am I going to have in C? And I can kind of see, okay, how far behind are we, as far as the skill level. Some of the players I've watched, they usually practice right before me every season. So I know who's coming up. So I kind of know, okay, well, this guy has a lot of skill. This guy needs a little bit of work, what have you. So after the first practice, what I did is I gave them all a role. So I want you to score 20 goals this year, and that's your goal for the season, or get 40 points, where somebody else is not much of a shot or may not be much of a goal scorer. I need you to get 5 points for me. Doesn't have to be goals or assists, but I'm giving you something like that's your goal for the season. That may not, therefore every player has a role and they're feeling that value. And I treat them all the same. So as far as accountability goes, like if you're mouthing off with a referee and like you get a 2-minute tripping penalty, you go to the box, you serve it. If you go take that 2-minute tripping penalty, you go to the box, you tell the ref off on the way there, he gives you an extra 2 and 10. I sit them for that additional time. So they sat for 12 minutes in the box. They come back and sit in the bench for another 12 minutes. And so we play 15-minute periods. That's 2 periods. So they usually catch on pretty quick. Yeah. And that doesn't matter if you scored 100 goals or you had 1 point the whole season. I've had to do it to a bunch of them, no matter the skill level, they all got painted with the same brush when it came to accountability. So that made them all buy in because they knew I wasn't messing around.
I got the same philosophy, man. When you start multiplying penalties because you're running your mouth, can't have that, especially in today's game, right? Like, I give my players a spiel at the beginning of every season about like, if you do this, it's going to cost you this. If you run your mouth and it's considered hate speech, which we know like that doesn't fly anymore, and stuff that maybe we would have said back in the day, it's now match penalty, or depending on what the format is in your location, and it multiplies so fast. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it to run your mouth. So I love it. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, so we set the ground rules with the players, and we basically told them like, we're going to try and give everybody's going to get a regular shift. When it comes to power play and penalty kill, I ran the malls for that. I ran my lines until I let the score dictate what I had to do. So where it is, rec hockey, everybody had those abilities or those times to shine. But the score was tight. It was like a 2-1 game or like a 3-2 game. Last few minutes of the game, I told them, I'm going to be putting certain people out on the ice. And, if we need to stop a goal or score a goal, I might be loading up. I might pull the goalie. If the goalie's not on, I've pulled goalies and switched them, where that's sometimes frowned upon, but you have to coach everybody. You can't just coach for one player. So, and that's kind of what the philosophy was. Is we're coaching for the team. We're not coaching for the individual. Everybody buys in. We're a team. It's going to take us all working together to be able to reach that goal. So after we were done to them, we had to go have the parent meeting and tell the parents everything that we told the players. So this is who I am. These are the coaches. This is the coaching staff. The tournaments we're going to go through this year. And this is what we just told your players. If I have to bench your kid, you don't have to walk around to the bench and come ask me why I benched your kid. I benched him because he deserved it. So some of them liked it, some of them didn't like it. I got questioned a few times, but for the most part, it took care of itself. They're not kids; they're young adults. They're growing into young men and women, and that's part of growing up. And it's part of if you go into the workforce, you're getting them ready for real life with that as well. So it's different life skills that they're learning with that. So
awesome. So tell me about the first season. So you have a 3-year plan. You go into the first season. How'd the first season go? So
that first season was a struggle, and kind of figured that going into it, just because you knew what other teams had coming back. A lot of those teams were in their 3rd year, so you're coming in with a much younger team. That year, I only had like 4 or 5 3rd-year players. I had 2 2nd-year players, and then the rest of the team were rookies, including both my goalies.
Just so I'm understanding, let me just make sure I understand. So we've got a combination. It's what, 18 is the oldest, and then you got some 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds?
Yeah, it's under 18, so yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
So you're getting, no, it's funny. So you're getting a 15-year-old playing against an 18-year-old, so size and strength and hockey sense is a lot different.
Yeah.
You learn a lot. So, so with that there, we only, for the regular season, we only won 7 games. Now, we kind of set that expectation at the beginning of the year, like, we think we should be okay to maybe finish like their goal was to be kind of like a 500 hockey club for that season. And with COVID kind of hit again that year. So we only beat probably about 25 games maybe, but we won 7. So when we come into the playoffs, we ended up going in the playoffs. We went 3-3, and I had one of my goalies went down with COVID, and my top goal scorer went down with COVID in the playoffs. So what ended up happening is we go 3-3, and then we have to go to the SEDMHA tournament, which when we went to SEDMHA, the way the time frame went is both of my players that were on COVID came back in on like game 3. So I was able to, we went 1-1. And then when those 2 players went in, we won the next game. And then we made it into the championship. There's 3 different rungs. There's like an Odyssey and then a Forward and Civic, which kind of like the Odyssey would be like the top. There's usually like 20 to 30 teams in this tournament it's an international tournament. I'm sure you've heard of SEDMHA before. It's out of Halifax. So there's teams from states, there's teams from Ontario. This year they had teams come in from Ireland. So it's a massive tournament. So anyways, we make it into that second round, and we're playing against a team that they were pounding everybody all weekend, like 10-1 and 8-1 and whatever. And they lost one game. They get dropped into this championship game against us. So I'm watching them in warm up, and it's, they had 2 or 3 players that probably should have been playing like A or AA. Like they were top end, like Michigan hand movement, fancy. So we were down 2-0 going into the flood, and our captain stood up and gave this big speech, like nobody thought we'd be here type thing, and look at where we are. This is our last season. We're not going out like this. Let's go out and get everything we got. So we come out and we score. We come out and score again. We come out and score again. So we end up beating them, and there's like 30 seconds left in the game. One of their players was wide open in the slot. It's a wide open shot, and I just heard this thud, and I thought it hit the back of the net, but the goalie skates, and he stopped it. And we won that game and took the championship. So that they got a taste of what it would be like. All that work you put in all year, you took it in the teeth all year, and now you come out and you win that tournament. So now they have that to build on.
Okay, I got to
come back from that. Yeah,
real quick. Okay, so 7 wins in an entire regular season. That's hard. So one of my questions is, how did you keep them positive? How did you, obviously you peaked at the right time and you finished strong, but how did you get to that point? How did you keep them positive?
It's just a lot of the games that we were losing, we were right there. We weren't really getting blown out. Maybe we went blown out maybe 2 or 3 times in the whole season, but we were right there, 3-2, 4-1, 5-3. We were right there. So I just, keep working at it. You're a young team, and for the third year guys, I obviously wanted to do well, but my main focus is to try and keep those young ones, up in the game. And that's all it was. And it's where the expectations were set at the beginning of the season. We're not setting it up hey, we don't need to go win the cup this year. We're trying to, build for next year. And where we set that tone, I think they understood that. And
so managing expectations. Quite well.
Yes.
I like that. It takes some skill, honestly. It sounds great in theory to actually make it happen when you're losing. You were keeping it close, but a loss still stings sometimes. Like you guys said, nobody expected us to be here. We got kicked in the teeth all season, but then they rallied. So that's pretty awesome. That's commendable.
Yeah, no, I'm very proud of it. So,
okay.
That was the ice cake for them. So then we moved into year 2. I have those 7 are all back, and I have a new crew that moved up. So in that second year, both of my goalies got moved to other teams. So I didn't have either one of my goalies. I have another goalie came in, and she was a girl. I've never coached a girl since novice. So getting used to dealing with a female and coaching a female versus coaching boys your whole way up is a little different, but she was super awesome. And she was a very strong goalie. And with her in that, she gave us quite an advantage over a lot of the teams. So she was really good. She played against me the year before and beat me and knocked me out in that first season. She played on a different team. So then she come to our team and she played with these guys pretty much their whole year up. So it's kind of just some restructuring went on. So anyway, she makes it back into the roster. Those 7 guys are there. I get some new guys coming in. So a few of these newer guys coming in. Once I watched that first practice, I said, well, we got 2 or 3 really strong players, a very strong goalie. And then I noticed with these ones moving up, I had 1 or 2 really strong defensemen come in, and I had a few players that I noticed they needed a lot of work. So when you talk about your bubble players there earlier on your post, these players here, they had their hard work ethic, but they needed a lot of work. Some of these players coming in, they had a hard time with crossovers and carrying a puck at the beginning of the season. And by the end of the year, one guy had 3 or 4 goals, and the other guy ended up with 12. So, in his skating and puck ability, it was night and day by the end of the year. So him stepping up. Problem is, basically our top goal scorer, we were averaging 3 goals for and 3 goals against. So it was a hit or miss every game. Mm-hmm. We were in every game because we had some pretty good defense, but the goalie stole the show. She stood in her head most games. We'd win 3-2, tie 3-3. I think we had 10 ties that year. We finished 500. We were 19-10 and something for the season.
Awesome.
Every tournament we went in, we finished second. We got silver in one tournament. We got silver for the season. We got silver in SEDMHA. We went back to that same Accord Championship again, and that time we finished second. So that hurt them a lot. But again, that was a big part of the building block. Is okay. Look what you did in year 1. Now you're coming in year 2. Now I've got 7 or 8 players that are now going to be third year, and then I got those ones that moved up are now going to be in their second season, moving into the season that just happened. And then with the new players moving up, I ended up getting 2 rookies and a rookie goaltender to join the team. So I had 3 additions to the whole team that has already went through the whole system with me.
So this is
So now
this is now going to the third year.
yeah, so now I'm going into this season.
Okay.
And did you have any other questions about
No,
second season? I guess before
I was smiling when you were talking about always being second, because I had this story very much aligns with what my experience was last year as well. I had a group of players that we'd had together. The season before last year, we were always a bridesmaid, never a bride. You know, like we finished second in a whole bunch of tournaments. And I don't know, second it's kind of painful, to be honest. Like you get that far and then can't finish. And so that led us going into this last hockey season hungry. And, you know, because they had tasted it over and over and over, what it tastes like to get silver medal. And they wanted gold. So it was, I'm going to let you keep going, but I'm smiling because, yeah, I've been in that exact same spot.
We're living in the same spot. Yeah.
Yep.
No, yeah. So that's basically, like, there's a lot of sad kids that season because of how close we were. And like I said, but that helped them because a lot of them are like, we're coming back next year and we're not going to let this happen again. So like you said, being hungry, like for that season, like I said, having like that goalie helped us where I kind of rely on her to kind of hold the game. It helped me kind of focus more so on having to coach a goalie and coach all the players. I was able to give her some stuff to do, but she was good enough to just do it. So coming to this season and I'm watching, watch that first practice, and I can't stop smiling the whole practice because I see what we get. I know where we're at. I can see how much work they put in. And like what ended up happening is I went with 4 lines of wingers, 3 centers, and 4 defense. So I had 4 defense that were out every second shift. And they're, in my opinion, as that season progressed, they were probably more like an A caliber for defense. So they're very strong. With my goaltending, I had my veteran goalie back, and I had a rookie goaltender. Now, with the rookie goaltender at the beginning of the season, like she'd only her head barely touches the crossbar with skates on. It's very tiny.
So you've got 2 female goalies now.
I now have 2 female goalies. And so with the new goalie, like I didn't know who she was. I've never seen her before. Again, we're getting into the kids I don't know. And basically I tried to figure out, okay, what were your numbers like last year and trying to gauge. So she was probably like between 4 and 6 goals a game average. So when I came to doing up my team goals, like for her, like I need you to try and get 1 shutout, and I want you to try and keep your goals at 4.5 or less for the season. And with my other goalies, like I want you to be at 2.5, and I want you to try and have 3 goals against or less. So kind of giving them some manageable expectations. Giving these team goals out with my top goals for previous season, he had like 40 goals. So I said, I want you to try and push to get 60 and try and get 100 points. It's your last year hockey. Try and go out with, centennial season. That'd be fantastic. Good for you if you can do it. So anyways, we go through and we do all our practices. We set up all these goals for all these players, and they're working their guts out in practice. And one of my assistant captains, he was the leader in the room. Like I hardly ever had to talk in the room because he took care of it. He was a born leader, and he just went in, he set the tone. And they all really all knew each other and knew how hard we were working. They all held each other accountable. So if somebody was slacking off, the player would take care of it. If this guy wasn't doing his job, the other guy would take care of it. And they knew that they had each other's backs, and they knew that, they could just handle each other, and I didn't have to mediate unless they stepped out of their accountability line. So it made my job a lot easier.
Can I pause you? How did you get to that point? Yeah. This is what I want to explore is like, did that just happen? Yeah. Did it just happen on some great leadership among the players? Did you encourage it somehow? How did you get to that point where the players were regulating themselves, holding each other accountable?
Yeah. So basically, I'm going to jump back to that first season. So the captain we had in that first season, he was the guy that kind of controlled a lot of them. And some of the younger guys looking up to him, they really bought it. So then we got into that second season. My captains and a bunch of my assistants, they are now stepping up a little bit, not as much. And with this same assistant captain we had, he was kind of always the guy in the room trying to rally people. We get into the third year, and now I still have the same captain or the same leadership core that have been there from the previous season. So they're the people, and they've already been under the leadership of these other new ones that started the season before. So everybody knew who everybody was, and they knew how they worked. So it really kind of took care of themselves. I think season 2, I kind of was more involved with it, but season 3, it was more or less like, we lost last year. We're coming back. We're winning it. We know we can do it. We're going to work our guts out. So when it came to practice time, like, they want the first 5 to 7 minutes of every practice, they were doing wind sprints by their own choice. Like They wanted to work their guts out. So while they were doing wind sprints and, building their endurance and hard skating, I was working with the two goalies and working with them and working on angles and working on different things with my rookie goalie to help improve her game. And my veteran goalie, she was there kind of like almost like a second goalie coach to try and help the other one get better. So as the season progresses, like these guys, they're in tip-top shape because they're skating their guts out every practice by their own choice. I mean, players don't like to do that. No. But when it comes into the third period, they have the legs where the other team kind of tails off, I found.
So
you have a question there?
Yeah, I want to make an observation. A huge takeaway that I'm kind of pulling from this is the importance of a continuation of leadership. Like that first captain, he set the tone for what a captain should look like on the culture of your team. And so the follow-up captains, they were like, no, this is how we do it. And it sounds to me like they had a strong enough personality as captains that anybody new just kind of fell in line with, no, this is the way that we do it. And then I don't know. I mean, the future is still yet to be written for you guys, but I would assume that, the next captains will probably have that same vision because they saw it done and they saw it work. That's a pretty important principle, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's like I said, and I already, like, the players that are coming back, like, I'll get to that later. Yeah, so I'll jump back into this here just so as the season goes on, one of my rookie players, he ended up, he was like a sniper goal scorer, and I didn't, I know the year before he did quite well from what I heard, but I'd never seen him in action. But he needed a lot of work on his skating, but the dude could score from anywhere. Like, you just give him the puck and it was in there. So that added into that. And so basically, as the season progresses, first game of the year, we had a team come in from a different town. Like, they weren't usually in our league, and they usually played at an A level. And like, we're going to come back and see how we do in the C division with this team. So we played them in an exhibition game, the very first game of the season. And we only had 2 practices at this point. It was kind of like a game to see, like a ranking game to see where they should go.
Like a baseline.
And, yeah, we beat them 9-3.
Wow.
So that gave me, my captain had 5 goals, I think, and helpers from other people. But it kind of helped me see, okay, this is how far ahead we are already at the beginning of the season. So it made it a lot easier to set those goals and hold them accountable. Okay, look what you did. Now let's just keep moving forward. And so, we worked hard on drills. We did breakouts every single practice. And again, when players wanted to do it, we did breakouts, we board side, D to D and us at the board side. We worked on a lot of D to D passes. And like that D to D pass gives you so much time and space. So D to D, if somebody's coming at you, pass it back to the other D. It's usually 1 or 2 passes, as you know, and you have so much open ice. And we use that to our advantage quite a bit. And broke him like triangle formation, or, we really beat that third man high in the submission. Like, you got to stay back, makes you a little bit stronger. If somebody's trying to break out, you get that third guy back to help pressure. So they really bought into all that, and it just worked. Like, just kept working and working and working. So, you have another question there?
No, I was scratching my forehead. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So,
keep going.
We're about halfway through the season. Maybe not quite halfway, but my veteran goalie ended up hurting her MCL and ACL, and she was out for 2 months. So my rookie goalie was left to carry the team by herself, and probably about 10, 12 games where she either had to play or I had to get a goalie from another team to fill in if she was sick or out herself. So that put her in a position where she had to, step her game up and help carry the team. And it made our players play better defensively and stop taking as many chances. So with her, and that gave her a lot more confidence because, she was given a lot more responsibility. And I saw her game grow considerably over those, 10 to 12 games. So that was really, really good thing for her and help her with her experience. So, and she'll be back again this year. So anyways,
are you still going to be coaching this same team?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So
the legend will continue, man. That's fantastic.
That's That's it. So we get into our first tournament, and we end up playing. We're playing a tournament, and when you go to other tournaments, sometimes you play against teams from your hometown. You play all this money, you go in, and pay all this money to play somebody from my hometown. So it was us versus one of our rivals, and they ended up beating us in the championship game 2-1. And that was we needed that loss bad. That loss was kind of what changed our mind. Like, that's what made them even more hungry. It's like, we're not going to let this happen ever again. And so we go through the season, we get into our Challenge Cup. We won that. We went undefeated our Challenge Cup, which basically would be our end of the year tournament for all of our teams in the league. And it was us versus them again in that final. And we beat them 6-1 in that final. And they're pretty happy with that.
That's the same team that had beat you earlier in the season?
Yeah, 2-1
in the final. Okay. Wow.
So what ended up happening there is one of the assistant captain on my team that, is always the voice in the room. I was trying all year to get him to play center. I was like, I want you on center. He said, no, I'll just play the wing. I'll play the wing. So after they lost that game, like the drive home, he wrote me a message. He's like, I'm ready to play center now. And I really think that was the catalyst to evening out the lines for having him on as that third center. So that changed the whole dynamic of the team yet again. So anyway, we go through that. We go to SEDMHA, and that's the big tournament. And you can see I got the
I was going to ask you about that. That's the banner in the back. Beautiful.
So we went down to SEDMHA. So basically we just finished our end of the year, and we won that. So now we had SEDMHA coming up. Now SEDMHA, again, we finished second there the season before, and we won it that bad. So the season before we lost 5-0 in the championship game. So it was kind of a pounding. So they had that memory and they wanted it back. Now with the SEDMHA Odyssey division, the last time that I was ever involved with the SEDMHA Odyssey division winning that was when I was a player. And I won that in my final year of hockey when I played. So that's been hanging in the rink my whole life, and I've been chasing it as a coach, wanting to get it back. But then the players knew how important it was to me too. So anyways, we go in and we played we're playing down in Cole Harbour, Dartmouth area. So Cole Harbour, first rink we're playing in was Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon's hometown rink where they grew up playing. So we go out there and we played against one of the Bedford teams, and we beat them. And then second game, I forget who we played in the second game, but we ended up beating them. And we go into the third game, and we're playing against one of our hometown teams again. So that they made it through that bracket, and we played them, and we won that game. And then we had to play against a team from Dieppe, so New Brunswick. Now, we got into that game. We had a slow start and a rough start. We were down 4-1 in the first period. And I ended up switching out the goalies, and the other goalie came in, and they scored in the first 1 or 2 shots. So we're down 5-1, and we're heading into the second period, and we had to flood. They usually flood after the second and third or between the first and second. So we went off for the flood, and basically I said my 2 cents, and like, don't roll over. We have lots of scoring power. We can come back and win this. And the assistant captain, he gave it to them pretty good. And we had a few of the other players that aren't even captains were basically, everybody was basically like, we can do this. Do not roll over. So we go out and we score, and we make it 5-2. And then it's 5-3. And then it's 5-4. And there's probably about a minute left in the game. My assistant captain ended up getting kicked out of that game. He got a 2 and a 10 and get tossed. So the guy that's cheering everybody on, he ends up getting tossed. My top goal scorer, he ended up getting called for a 2-minute penalty. So he's in the box. And now it's a 5-on-3 with a minute left. And they end up taking the penalty. So now it's 4-on-3. And I told the goalie to go 4-on-4 because, we can ice the puck, can't ice the puck. So they're pick up the penalty. But anyways, we down there. I'm going to pull the goalie, take the goalie out, and I put out these 4 players. I had my rookie out there who, he ended up having over 50 goals at this point. And my goalie comes out and says, "Why would you do that? They're not going to score." I'm like, it's worked a few times this year. You just wait. So anyways, the face-off's down there, and we win the face-off clean. Buddy does a D-to-D pass to my rookie. He skates into the top of the circle and wires it top cheese, and we tie the game 5-5. So now we're going. I look at my goalie and I go, "See, I told you." She just rolled her eyes at me and went back to the net. So anyways, we go into overtime. Both teams had a couple good chances, but still tied at the end of overtime. So now we're going into a shootout. And we had to shoot first. So I put my rookie out first. He goes down, he scores. Their guy comes down, and the goalie makes the save. And then the top goal scorer, I put him out. He goes down, he scores, he makes it 2-1. And then they come down, they miss the net on their shot. We went at 6-5 in a shootout, and that keeps us going. So we win that, we go into the next game, and we were up 4-1 in that game. We ended up losing that game in a shootout, and we go to the finals. So we go to the final, and we had another game in between that. We won that, and then we had a final rematch against the team that beat us in the shootout.
Okay.
And again, we already played these guys. We know what they're all about. They know what we're all about. Let's just come out, give it everything we got. And we come out and we beat them 5-1. We scored 5 goals before the third period. In the whole third period, all we did was a 1-2-2. We might have had maybe 5 or 6 shots. They might have had 2 shots on us, maybe 3. But all we did was like, let's just run the clock out. You guys have this. And that's all they talked about in the room. Is like, we don't need any more goals. We have this game. We have to just play smart defensive hockey. And it showed. So they come out and they win that. And that's the season. So like 47-4-1 or something like that was the season for the year. So it was the icing on the cake. And that's the success of coming from 7 wins to 47 wins in 3 seasons.
That's phenomenal. I love it. So I'm just a couple key things that have stood out to me as you've been describing your story. Continuation of leadership, right? Letting the team, the player leaders inspire each other to keep that going season after season. I like that you have created an environment or a culture of letting losses fuel additional performance. And I'm going to give you a second to think about, like, maybe if there's any tips on ways that you've done that. But that seems to be the recurring theme in this is, I always tell my own sons, I've got 4 boys, and I always tell them, like, guys, you're playing hockey. Yes, we want to win, but you're going to learn from your losses. We want to learn leadership. I want you to learn to work hard. I want you to learn how to win, learn how to lose, learn how to work hard, learn how to lead. And hockey is the mechanism for that being able to happen. So yes. I don't know. I mean, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but if it's possible to pinpoint anything that you've done to facilitate that culture, I'd love to hear it.
Well, for me, like, I guess I owe a lot of my thought process to my father, because he's always kind of instilled that in us coming up when I played. And basically, it always work hard at the end of the game. Whether, if you get blown out 10-0, you go shake the other team's hand, you go, good game. It wasn't a good game. You're just doing it because you have to. But if you lose 3-2 and you know that you gave it everything you got, you can go by and you can look at yourself in the mirror. You can look at the other team. You know what? That was a good game. And you can accept that loss because you did everything you could. If you left something on the table, then you are it'll haunt you. Yeah. So it's for me, like a lot of people say, oh, it's just rec hockey, it's just C hockey. To me, it's hockey. It doesn't matter if you're playing AAA or C. You play sports, to win. You also play sports to learn. You learn how to become a team. You learn, like you said, you learn all these different aspects of life through hockey. It's not just the skills. It's how to talk to people. It's how to be dependable. It's how to become a great teammate, a coachable person. Being on time. Like there's so many other things that are involved in it. So for me, like, it all comes back to I'm going to coach the team the way that a team needs to be coached, not the way an individual player has to be coached. So then they all buy into that team. When it comes to losing, like I said, if you're getting pounded, well, you're just not good enough and you're outclassed. So that's one thing. But like I said, if you're down 4-1 and or 5-1 and you can come back and you keep battling, well, you've proved that you can do it. And now you can do it. So now you believe you're not going to quit. If you did that time and time again and it never worked, then I might not have had this success, but because they bought into that. So for me, like, losing, don't be afraid. Like, it sucks to lose. I hate losing more than I love winning. Like, it sucks. But you learn a lot.
Did you just say you hate losing? Hold on. Did you just say you hate losing more than you love winning?
Yes.
I have said those exact words. In fact, it was a conversation I had with a colleague of mine, like, last week. And I was like, I don't know if there's something wrong with me, but like, losing drives me more crazier than I get satisfied after winning. So I guess we're on the same page as far as that goes. Something wrong with me. There's something wrong with both of us, I guess.
But there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's So, but no, like, with losing, like, you're going to learn. Like I said, you come into you look at the first season, we took it in the teeth all year. Then last year we played 500, but we lost every championship game. And yeah, it sucked, but look at what it did for them for the following season. They knew what it felt like. They knew how much work it was going to take. Like we were right, we lost 5-0 in a championship game. We got outclassed and outplayed in that one. But when you lose 2-1 or 3-2, well, you were right there. What could have you done differently? Was it a bad goal? Did you take a dumb penalty? What did you do in that game? Like, we gave up 3 power play goals that game because we couldn't keep our mouths shut. And that comes back to being accountable for your actions. Mm-hmm. So.
Well said, man. Okay, I'm going to leave you with the last words. First of all, thank you so much for sharing your experience and for being on the podcast with us.
Right.
Here's the question is, let's just say that you came across a coach and you met and this is the first time you're meeting and you're like, oh, you coach too. Awesome. How was it? How's it going for you? And he said, man, you know what? It's a little rough. Last year we only won 7 games and, I'm trying to figure out what to do with the players and how to make it a positive experience. What advice would you have for a coach who is at the situation where you were 3 years ago? What might you say to that coach to help him or her to move forward and make it positive?
Well, it's like the big thing, like I said, would be, or that I'd say to them would be, well, one, you got to take a look at your dressing room and see what players are in control of the room and talk to them first and try to tell them what you're trying to achieve and get those players to try and help set the tone in the room. Because it's one thing coming from your coach, it's another thing coming from your teammate. So if you can get those leaders to come in and trying to set tone, if you're losing, come on, let's pick it up. Or if you're winning, be like, we need to solidify the lead, or if somebody's not skating hard enough, having your teammate being able to say, look, man, you got to step it up a notch. We have to work harder. Like the first thing would be, I guess, find the leaders in your room and get them to buy in, and that's going to help you get the other players on board. The other thing would be find out what your strengths and weaknesses are as a team. Are you a defensive team? Are you an offensive team? And then that's when you go to Weiss Tech Hockey and you find out the drills that you need to help them learn that stuff. So, and then work on it. Like a lot of my practice plans are very repetitious. I do almost the same practice. Like I probably have like 20 drills, and I'd say 5 of them I probably do almost every single practice, and the other ones are just fillers. Like I'll switch this out or switch this out. But it's about building that hockey IQ, getting them to understand the game better. And I still do the circles with my players with the puck, like forwards and backwards with the puck. So I mean, make sure their skating is there, because a lot of players they help build their confidence if they can skate with the puck. Like might not do as much because they know they can't do it and they don't want to be embarrassed. So help build that skill set for them, so they're more confident in their game. Once they become more confident, like, oh, I just scored a goal on my backhand, I'm going to work on that a little more. Never done that before. So I don't really think that's what I can say. Is just keep the faith and keep working at it. And like I said, it might not work for everybody, but it's worked for me time and time again. And like I said, it's just where the formula works. I'm going back into it this season. I'm going to have a full. If I have that whole team back from last year, I have no idea who's coming up. So I might have another 7 rookies, and I might be back in the same spot I was in year 1. So what can I do with this year? How can I repeat this year's success? How can I come close to it? We won't know until everybody shows up on the ice and we see who's there. But
I love it. So get the player leaders on board. If you guys missed any of that, get the player leaders on board. Determine what type of team, what type of style you're going to play, and then build around that. Play to your strengths, improve your weaknesses where you can, and then continue on the skill development. I love it. I love it. So anyways, Max, thanks again. And any final words before we sign off?
I'd like to thank you for your time, for having me in here for this interview. It's great to be able to talk about the Pictou County U18 C minors and their successful journey that they've had. So I'd like to thank my whole team, all the players, all the captains, thank my coaching staff for all their assistance over the years, my father for teaching me all kinds of stuff, and big shout out to all the parents for always supporting me and being there through it all as well. So thank you for your time, Jeremy. I really much appreciate it.
Really appreciate having you on, and thank you for being here, and good luck with your upcoming season. And of course, as always, stay in touch. And if any of you guys are looking for more drills, skills, or anything else that'll help you improve your game, weisstechhockey.com, tons of coaching material there. And as always, stay in touch. Stay in touch with me. Stay in touch on the website. Stay in touch on Facebook, Instagram. We're all over the place. So thanks again, Max. We'll go ahead and sign off.